Commander Jake Morrison stood before the vast expanse of stars, his reflection faintly mirrored in the colossal viewport. The command deck of the UES Leviathan thrummed with quiet, precise energy, the living heartbeat of humanity's most advanced creation. The ship stretched nearly 3 kilometers in length, its hull concealing enough weaponry to pulverize a minor moon. Yet its destination wasn't war. It was history. 6 months earlier, Earth's reality had changed forever. A transmission had arrived from beyond the solar frontier, unmistakably non-human in origin. The message was clear and unsettling in its simplicity. A civilization calling itself the Galactic Federation had extended an invitation. Join them among the stars. They offered dialogue, cooperation, and a seat among interstellar powers, if humanity dared to accept. Their instructions were precise. Earth was to send a single vessel to a place called Kepler Station. What the Federation didn't specify, however, was what kind of vessel they expected. For weeks, Earth's leaders debated. Scientists argued for a mission of knowledge and diplomacy. Others urged restraint, a small craft, a symbol of humility and peace. But Admiral Ben Collins, commander of Earth's defense fleet, had disagreed. "We go strong," he had declared, his tone leaving no room for doubt. "They may come in peace or they may not. Either way, they need to understand humanity is not to be underestimated." And so the Leviathan was chosen, Earth's might incarnate, bearing 2,000 elite personnel and enough firepower to level continents. Fusion cannons, hypervelocity railguns, and the untested quantum torpedoes that could unmake matter itself. Captain Lisa Harper, Earth's lead diplomat, approached Morrison now, tension shadowing her normally steady voice. Morrison turned toward her, his expression steady but resolute. "Lisa, we've been over this already. We're not going there to start a war, but we're not going to walk in unprotected either. These beings have been crossing the stars for who knows how long. If they wanted us gone, they could erase Earth before we'd even know it happened. The only way they'll respect us is if we prove we're capable of standing our ground." At the weapons station, Lieutenant Sam Torres methodically checked the Leviathan's vast arsenal. He was known across the fleet as the best tactical officer humanity had. "Commander," he reported, "all offensive systems are green. Fusion cannons fully charged. Railgun ammunition reserves optimal. Quantum torpedoes armed and secured for deployment." Morrison gave him a firm nod. "Good work, Sam. Hopefully we won't need to fire a single round, but I'd rather have it ready and not need it than the other way around." Across the command deck, Navigator Amy Watson focused on the holographic star maps glowing before her. "Sir, hyperspace jump in 20 minutes, she announced. Long-range scans show multiple contacts already assembled at Kepler Station. At least 15 different ship configurations detected. None match any known design in our archives. Morrison stepped beside her, examining the rotating projections. The alien vessels were unlike anything human engineers could have imagined. Some stretched out like slender needles, others were perfect metallic spheres, and a few twisted in shapes that defied Euclidean geometry altogether. Yet one detail stood out. They were all small. "What's their scale, Amy?" "The largest is roughly 800 meters in length, sir. Most are far smaller, around 1 to 200 meters. They look like research or exploration craft, not warships." A quiet unease crept into Morrison's chest. Humanity's massive battle cruiser, bristling with weapons, might appear as a threat, a show of force where diplomacy was intended. But turning back was no longer an option. The die was cast. At the science console, Dr. Ryan Peters monitored a stream of alien signals. "Commander, the station's transmitting heavy communication traffic. We're still decrypting, but I've isolated patterns from at least 12 distinct sources, likely separate species." 12 civilizations, Morrison murmured. "That means a dozen alien races have already united under this federation. They must control an enormous stretch of the galaxy." Just then, Chief Engineer Kelly Chen arrived, her datapad glowing with reactor readouts. "Sir, propulsion and power systems are fully nominal. Fusion cores are stable, and the hyperspace drive is charged and standing by, Commander," Amy Watson reported. "We're ready for jump on your command." Morrison's gaze swept across the bridge. every officer at their post, calm, precise, and focused. These were the finest minds and bravest souls humanity had to offer. He prayed that would be enough for what awaited them beyond the veil. "All stations, confirm readiness for hyperspace transition," Amy continued. One by one, voices affirmed their status. Morrison eased into his command chair, exhaling once. "Very well," he said quietly. "Engage hyperspace drive." The universe outside shifted in an instant. The familiar stars blurred and vanished, replaced by vast, twisting ribbons of light, colors beyond the visible spectrum, dancing like living plasma. The Leviathan had breached the barrier of light speed, hurtling through subspace toward its rendezvous with the unknown. In mere hours, humanity would meet its first alien civilizations face to face. Morrison stared into the kaleidoscopic vortex and felt the weight of history pressing on his shoulders. For centuries, humanity had looked up at the night sky and wondered, "Are we alone?" Now they knew the truth. They were not. Dozens of intelligent species shared the galaxy, and together they had built something vast, a federation that spanned the stars. The real question wasn't whether they existed. It was whether they would welcome humanity or fear it. The Leviathan was a masterpiece of war, a fortress of steel and plasma. Its composite armor could shrug off anything short of a star's fury. Its energy shields could bend light itself. Its guns and torpedoes could erase fleets in seconds. Yet Morrison prayed none of it would be needed. He didn't want to make history through violence. He wanted peace, a chance for humanity to prove it could rise above fear. "Commander," Dr. Peters called from the science console. "New transmissions coming through. High-volume traffic between the station and the surrounding ships. My systems have identified over 20 distinct linguistic structures. 20, Morrison repeated, stunned. That means 20 different species are represented there. The Federation was larger and older than anyone on Earth had dared imagine. Humanity was about to step into something far beyond its comprehension. Were they ready? He wasn't sure. But retreat was no longer an option. He closed his eyes for a moment, steadying his heartbeat. In a few hours, the course of human history would pivot toward unity or toward conflict. Either way, the Leviathan would face it head-on. Moments later, space tore open with a blinding pulse. The Leviathan erupted from hyperspace in a roaring cascade of energy that rippled across nearby systems. The massive warship re-entered normal space near Kepler Station, its arrival setting off alarm klaxons on every vessel within 100 light-years. Inside the Federation hub, ambassadors and commanders from dozens of worlds froze as sensor readings spiked off the charts. The raw power output was beyond anything known. Not even the oldest dreadnoughts of the core fleets registered such magnitude. In the diplomatic wing, Ambassador Kira of the Zeparian Collective, her crystalline body usually a serene blue, now pulsed with alarmed crimson light. "This can't be correct," she whispered. "Run diagnostics again. The sensors must be malfunctioning." Her assistant, Vale of Zahira, looked pale and shaken. "Ambassador, I've checked 3 times. The readings are accurate. That human vessel, it's generating more power than our entire home defense fleet combined." Across the station, in the military sector, the Karanti attaché stared wordlessly at the tactical hologram and felt the first flicker of fear. Commander Thak of the Karanti Dominion stood frozen before his console, his scaled brow furrowed in disbelief. The Karanti, towering reptilian warriors renowned across the stars for their unbroken record of victory, had never known fear. Yet as Thak stared at the sensor data streaming across his displays, that alien sensation clawed its way into his chest. "What kind of propulsion system produces this much residual energy?" he muttered, his clawed hands trembling as they worked the controls. The readings were impossible. The human vessel wasn't even trying to project power. What they were seeing was merely its idle output. Aboard the Leviathan, Dr. Ryan Peters listened intently to the storm of transmissions flooding through the comm systems. His translation algorithms were evolving fast and faster than he'd anticipated, and what he was hearing filled him with unease. "Commander Morrison," he said, his tone grave, "I'm detecting heightened chatter across multiple frequencies. They're alarmed, extremely alarmed. It seems we may have frightened them. Morrison stood before the great viewing screen, gazing at the alien station suspended ahead. The structure was breathtaking, a lattice of glass and shimmering alloys sculpted into elegant arcs and sweeping towers. But it was far smaller than he had imagined, and far more fragile. What exactly are they saying, Ryan? Most of it's technical. They're analyzing our power readings, trying to understand our weapons and reactor output, but I'm also detecting words that translate roughly to danger, threat, and evacuation. Dr. Peters turned toward him, unease in his eyes. Sir, I think we've genuinely terrified them. Captain Lisa Harper stepped up beside Morrison, her expression tight with regret. Jake, maybe this was a mistake. Look at that station. It's art, not armor. It's meant for diplomacy, not defense. To them, we must look like a monster. Morrison followed her gaze. The alien ships orbiting the station were smaller than expected, graceful, lightly built, and clearly designed for science or trade. Even the largest among them was a fraction of the Leviathan's size. By contrast, the human vessel, wrapped in plating and bristling with weapon mounts, must look like a harbinger of doom. At Kepler Station's control deck, Captain Zix, a nervous Manuri with 6 swiveling eyes, stared at the incoming ship. His voice shook as he transmitted across open channels. Unknown Earth vessel, please reduce your engine output and proceed to Docking Bay 7. Your current energy emissions are disrupting station operations. Morrison turned toward Kelly Chen at engineering. You heard him, Kelly. Drop us to minimum output. She worked quickly, adjusting the controls. Power reduced to minimum, sir. But even then, we're still generating more energy than most of their ships combined. The Leviathan crept forward, its colossal mass gliding toward the designated bay. Even at low speed, it radiated a quiet menace, a mountain of steel among fragile sculptures. The glow of its weapon ports, the thickness of its armor, the silent hum of its reactors, every detail declared its purpose, survival through overwhelming strength. On the station, the reaction was immediate and chaotic. The Alaran delegate activated his personal shield and backed away from the observation window. The Prune ambassador was frantically transmitting to her homeworld for instructions. The station's central AI began calculating evacuation scenarios in case the humans decided to open fire. Commander, Dr. Peters said urgently, we're receiving high-priority transmissions from at least 17 species. They're all asking the same question. Morrison turned toward him. What question? Whether we've come to negotiate or to conquer. Morrison's stomach sank. It was the nightmare he'd dreaded. Humanity's show of strength had been mistaken for aggression. If this misunderstanding escalated, one wrong move could ignite a war against half the galaxy. Open a channel, he ordered quietly. All frequencies, to the station and every surrounding ship. Channel open, sir, the comms officer confirmed. Morrison drew a slow breath, steadying himself before speaking. His voice, when it came, was calm and deliberate. This is Commander Jake Morrison of the Earthship Leviathan. We have come in response to your invitation to join the Galactic Federation. We come in peace and mean no harm to anyone. We understand our ship may appear intimidating, but it was built to defend our people and to protect our allies. We hope that one day you might count yourselves among them. The bridge fell silent. Seconds stretched like minutes. Commander Morrison, came Ambassador Kira's steady yet strained voice through the comm. Your ship is larger and more heavily armed than anything known to exist. Its energy output alone could power this station for an entire cycle. Why would you bring such a vessel? To a diplomatic meeting? Morrison glanced at Captain Harper, who gave him a small nod of encouragement. He straightened, choosing his words carefully. Ambassador, Earth received your invitation, but it didn't specify what kind of vessel to send. We chose to dispatch our finest as a gesture of respect. The Leviathan represents the pinnacle of our engineering and our commitment to cooperation, but more importantly, it shows that humanity is capable of defending itself, and those it calls allies. Inside the station's research sector, Dr. Zinn, the Federation's chief xenobiologist, observed the human warship with awe and unease. Every available sensor was focused on the colossal vessel. Look at that configuration, he murmured to his assistant. Every subsystem, propulsion, shielding, weapons, is optimized for both endurance and lethality. This isn't just a warship, it's the Warship. It's perfection, designed for survival through strength. His young assistant, a scientist from the Vegan colonies, stared at the data feed. "Doctor, their reactor layout violates multiple laws of thermodynamics as we understand them. They're sustaining controlled fusion at densities that should be impossible. And those railguns, their kinetic output would slice through our strongest capital armor like it was nothing." Zinn leaned closer to the structural analysis display. "It's not just their machines that fascinate me. It's what this says about them. Look here. The gravity level inside their ship, the atmospheric composition, the internal pressure. These beings evolved on a world with crushing gravity and volatile air chemistry. The humans themselves are as extreme as their technology." Meanwhile, the Leviathan completed its delicate docking sequence. Despite the ship's immense size, its thrusters adjusted with surgical precision, aligning the massive hull perfectly with the station's magnetic couplers. It was a display of engineering mastery that left even the Federation's most advanced technicians speechless. Morrison watched from the command deck, silent as the clamps sealed. In moments, he and Captain Harper would step into alien territory, into a room full of species older, wiser, and possibly far more powerful than humanity. The future of Earth might hinge on what happened in the next few hours. He only hoped they'd be given the chance to prove that humanity came seeking peace, not conquest. The first diplomatic assembly took place in the Grand Chamber, an architectural marvel of glass, light and shifting geometry, designed to accommodate dozens of different physiologies. When Commander Morrison and Captain Harper entered, flanked by a ceremonial security detail led by Sergeant Dan Miller, the reaction was immediate, even in formal uniforms. The humans radiated a quiet, commanding presence. Their height, posture, and confident movement drew every gaze. Even Harper, average among her own kind, stood taller than most of the delegates. The gathered aliens whispered in a dozen voices, their translators struggling to keep up. The sheer physicality of the humans, their density, composure, and calm, unnerved many. Finally, Ambassador Vex of the Hygamne advanced toward them, his multi-jointed limbs moving with a spider-like grace. His glittering eyes regarded the newcomers with equal parts curiosity and caution. "Welcome, beings of Earth," he said, his voice echoing across the chamber. "Your arrival has been most dramatic. Perhaps you could explain why a vessel of such devastating power was brought to a peaceful gathering." Captain Harper stepped forward and offered a reassuring smile. "Ambassador Vex, I assure you, we come in peace. But experience has taught us that peace is best preserved by preparedness. The Leviathan embodies humanity's commitment to protecting both our people and those who choose to stand beside us." The ambassador's many eyes blinked in rapid succession, confusion rippling through his posture. "Your ship's weapons could annihilate this entire station," he said slowly. "Its reactors emit more energy than our homeworld fleet uses in a year. Tell me, are all human ships built with such terrifying strength?" Morrison couldn't help the faintest of smiles. "The Leviathan is our flagship, but she's not unique. Earth maintains a defensive fleet of comparable vessels." The translation system stuttered, then carried the statement across the hall. A stunned silence followed, broken only by the gasps and alarmed murmurs of dozens of alien delegates. Even Commander Thak of the Karanti, once considered among the galaxy's most indomitable warriors, found his voice unsteady. His armored claws flexed involuntarily as he stared at the humans. "How many ships like this does your world possess?" "Engineering." She ran a trembling hand along the reactor housing. 18 months, she repeated softly. "We take nearly a decade to build a ship a tenth this size." Martinez smiled modestly. "We've had a lot of practice. Humanity's expansion into our solar system required efficiency and adaptability. We learned to build fast, build strong, and make every component multi-purpose. Space doesn't forgive mistakes." Tell looked at him with a mixture of respect and unease. "Your people must have faced great dangers to develop technology like this." Martinez nodded. "We did. The void is harsh, but so was our home world. We learned early that survival meant never being complacent. Across the station, cultural exchanges were underway. Human historians presented art, music, and philosophy, emphasizing the diversity of Earth's civilizations. Alien delegates were surprised to learn how humanity could simultaneously produce both warships and symphonies, weapons and poetry. Ambassador Kira watched a holographic performance of Beethoven's Ode to Joy and seemed genuinely moved. "Such beauty," she said. "To think that a species born from such violent origins could create something so harmonious," Captain Harper nodded. "That's what defines us, Ambassador. We struggle, we fight, but we also dream and we build. We are not defined by our wars, but by what we build after them." By the end of the third day, a cautious optimism had begun to take hold. The initial fear that humanity might be a galactic threat was giving way to a different realization, that humans were dangerous. Yes, but also disciplined and purposeful. Ambassador Vex, who had been among the most skeptical, finally addressed the human delegation during the closing session. "Commander Morrison, Captain Harper, the Federation has never encountered a species quite like yours. You carry the strength of predators and the intellect of builders. That combination is rare. Many of us feared that your arrival would herald destruction. Now I begin to suspect it may herald change." Morrison inclined his head respectfully. "We're honored, Ambassador. Humanity seeks partnership, not domination. But we will always defend those who stand with us." Dr. Zinn's voice echoed across the chamber. "And perhaps that is precisely what the galaxy has been missing. A species that remembers how to fight, but chooses when not to." There was silence, then a ripple of agreement through the assembly. For the first time, the Federation's counselors looked at the humans not as monsters, but as potential allies. Outside the station's viewport, the Leviathan floated in orbit like a silent promise, massive, powerful, and awe-inspiring. A reminder to all who gazed upon it that humanity had arrived among the stars not just to survive, but to stand shoulder to shoulder with the galaxy. Would you like me to continue this scene into the Federation's formal vote on whether to admit humanity or transition to the Alien Council's private debate afterward, where they discuss the true implications of what they've just witnessed? Ambassador Tell stared at the human engineer in disbelief. 18 months, she whispered to her assistant. "Our most advanced shipyard takes 15 years to build something half this size, and we can only handle one major project at a time." Engineer Martinez continued his explanation, unaware of the shock spreading among the alien delegation. Of course, the Leviathan is a military-class vessel, so it has reinforced armor and extensive weapons systems. Civilian models can be built much faster. A standard cargo hauler, for instance, takes about 6 months from start to finish. Dr. Zinn was recording every word. The scale of human industry went beyond anything the Federation had ever imagined. "Mr. Martinez," he asked, "how many people live within your solar system?" "Roughly 15 billion, Martinez replied. "Spread across Earth, Luna, Mars, and the asteroid colonies. Most of our heavy industry's off-world now, to keep Earth's environment clean." The aliens exchanged uneasy glances. 15 billion souls, more than the total population of several Federation member species combined. Humanity wasn't just advanced. They were vast, industrious, and self-sustaining on a scale that dwarfed most civilizations. Meanwhile, in the station's medical wing, Dr. Nancy Foster was sharing human medical practices with the alien physicians. When she mentioned that active-duty crew members had survived injuries fatal to most species, disbelief rippled through the room. "This human, Sergeant Tony Williams, has medical scans showing multiple projectile wounds through vital organs," Dr. Zinn noted, astonished. "Yet he's still serving?" Dr. Foster smiled. "He made a full recovery after 6 months of rehabilitation. Humans heal quickly, and our medical nanotech can repair most tissue damage. We rarely lose anyone except to old age or very severe accidents." The alien doctors were both horrified and fascinated. To them, wounds that would mean certain death were, for humans, temporary setbacks. "What is your species' average lifespan?" asked the chief medical officer. "With modern care, about 150 years, Foster replied. "Longer if you live well. Some even choose natural lifespans instead of full extensions." Shock rippled again through the alien staff. Most Federation species lived barely half that long. Humanity wasn't just resilient, they were enduring. The real shift came when Intelligence Officer Matt Johnson presented humanity's historical archives. Holograms of Earth's past filled the chamber. Vast wars that spanned continents, weapons that shattered cities, soldiers by the millions. "You fought a global war using atomic weapons?" gasped the Manuri delegate, all 6 eyes wide with alarm. "Multiple global wars," Johnson corrected gently. "Atomic weapons were used only twice and only to end the last one. We learned that some powers should never be used except to prevent greater destruction." Commander Thack leaned forward, his scaled hands trembling slightly. "You developed weapons capable of annihilating your world and then chose not to use them?" Johnson nodded. "That's right. We created the means for total destruction and then built systems and laws to ensure they'd never be used again. They exist as deterrents, not tools of conquest." Many alien officers exchanged glances of disbelief. For most species, such restraint was unthinkable. Dr. Zinn's calm voice carried through the hall. "It aligns with our observations. They possess the potential for extreme violence, but their societies channel it into discipline and structure. They've evolved beyond their aggression." Ambassador Vex tilted his spider-like head. "Your wars killed millions. How did your civilization endure?" Johnson met his gaze. "By learning. Every conflict taught us the cost of violence. We built systems, laws, councils, cooperation to prevent it from happening again." Commander Thack folded his claws. "And yet you still maintain vast militaries." "Yes," Johnson replied, "because strength prevents war better than weakness invites it. Our fleets exist to defend peace, not destroy it. The Leviathan is a shield, not a sword." Captain Harper rose to address the assembly. "What you've seen is our past, painful but necessary. We learned from it. Humanity hasn't fought a major war in over 2 centuries. We turned our drive for competition into exploration, invention, and the pursuit of a better life for everyone." Ambassador Kira's crystalline body now glowed with soft blue light, the color of calm understanding. "So humanity learned to master its violent instincts through wisdom?" "Exactly," Harper said. "We found that unity achieves more than conquest ever could. That's the lesson we offer the Federation." For the first time, silence filled the chamber, not of fear but of contemplation. Dr. Zinn made his final note. "Natural warriors who chose to become guardians. The Federation had long sought protectors who could defend civilization with both strength and wisdom. It seemed they had finally found them. A week later, the atmosphere in the Grand Assembly Hall was completely transformed. Where once there had been suspicion, now there was respect. Ambassador Vex addressed the crowd. "In these days, we've learned much about humanity. Your technology and industry exceed our expectations, yet your actions have shown restraint and a genuine desire for peace." Captain Harper stood with confidence. "We thank the Federation for its patience. Humanity seeks no conquest, only partnership. We value freedom, progress, and mutual defense against those who threaten peace." Ambassador Kira's voice resonated like a clear chime. "At first, we feared humans might bring chaos. Now we see you may be the ones to preserve order." Commander Morrison stepped forward. "The fleets of Earth stand ready to defend any member world under threat. We've seen the dangers on your borders, pirates, raiders, and worse. We've faced such threats before, and we stand ready to face them again." Commander Thack rose slowly, his scaled face solemn. "The Karanti have waged war for 1,000 years. We thought ourselves masters of combat, but humans have shown us that true mastery lies in restraint. We would be honored to fight beside them." Dr. Zinn presented his findings to the assembly. Humans evolved on a Class 12 death world, a planet so lethal that survival itself required strength, intelligence, and adaptability beyond measure. They are survivors who became warriors, and warriors who chose to be protectors. The galaxy has waited long for such guardians. Then aboard the Leviathan, Admiral Collins received a priority transmission. Earth's Fleet Command had reviewed the proceedings. Their orders were simple: extend humanity's protection to any Federation world in need. Moments later, Lieutenant Torres reported, "Admiral, multiple distress calls from the Real L system. Pirate attack on the mining colonies." Local defenses.